Now, moving on, we're on to number 9 on our list of the top 10 stories of 2017. There were protests again in Santa Fe this September during the Entrada de Don Diego de Vargas, a reenactment during the Santa Fe Fiesta, of the return of the Spanish colonists to the city following the Pueblo Indian Revolt. Protests continued after the reenactment. 8 protesters were arrested, and as you were a panelist on the line, when we talked about the protesters and the arrests that week, it was interesting, and you lived there as well as a couple of you folks here. What's some distance now to look back on it? My first question is, I'm fascinated at the vigor of the protests. That was really, I think, did it catch you by surprise? How, we knew protests were coming, but the size of it and the scope of it, were you caught off guard a little bit, and maybe some others too?
Well, it was the second year, so I wasn't completely surprised. Okay. And if you read their comments and looked at their Facebook and social media, they were pretty upset about the Entrada and how it was portraying the coming back of the Spanish. What I was surprised about is that we can't seem to move beyond those and do something about what is causing the people to be upset.
Right.
And I think, the Catholic Church has said the Entrada has to change. The city has more or less said it. The protesters obviously have said it, and protesters, a lot of them are not local Native Indians. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. So, but the Pueblos around have now said it. They've gotten involved, the governors and different representatives. So when you have that kind of pressure, the group that puts it on, the Fiesta Council and the Caballeros de Vargas, they're going to have to now react and either change it or move it to a private location.
Right.
And find a way that this return of the Spanish can be something that isn't seen as a conquest, but rather as a reconciliation, which is what they try to make that out to be,
right.
Which is not historically accurate.
Right.
But the reality is the New Mexico culture was then built from that moment. And there's a lot to celebrate in that culture. So I think that if we move forward past protests, we might be able to find something that all groups can look to with pride.
Appreciate that as well, because honestly, Matt, when you think about it, what Inez is talking about is dialogue. When you really strip away, people have to sit down and talk with each other about this stuff. And that's a big gap, what she's describing. Reconquest versus reconciliation. There's a whole lot of room there for disagreement.
There certainly is, and it's the same theme that we just saw in our last topic, right? Where you've got two sides that are just so butted up against each other that they can't speak. And there was some talk afterwards of, okay, we need to sit down and talk about this. But I think it was the Fiesta Council who had said, well, you didn't tell us that. There have been some missteps made, and I think as Inez said, everyone could see this coming. We knew there was going to be a protest.
That's right.
And it's really a misstep because everyone, or a lot of the people involved, have that heritage, but their common heritage, which goes back to the beginning of their lives, I mean, it's mostly shared. There's mostly a history of interacting with each other and trying to figure out a way to make that work. It's not always clean.
That's right. That's right. Mary, when I think about this event as well, it was proper, one might say, for the mayor at the time, Mr. Gonzalez, and others to stay out of it. Like, this is a community argument, do you know what I mean? But I'm also curious that, at some level, it does end up in your lap. You know what I mean? It's about your city and the image you put out to the rest of the world. Where do politics fit in all this? It's tricky, this
yeah,
situation.
I think, politics, not necessarily in elections or anything like that, but politics does play in hugely to this. We were talking a little earlier in the day about how this issue is so quintessentially New Mexico, right? It's about the Spanish colonizing this area and the relationships with Native Americans and sustaining of Native American culture here in the area. But it also has definitely ties to the broader national political scene that we saw this year, which might be a national top 10 story of race relations and Confederate monuments.
That's right.
So it does matter, I think, whether what side you're on, how New Mexico handles this and how the city of Santa Fe reacts, because people are paying attention for those reasons.
It's a good reminder there, by the way, that was during the General Lee statues. It was right at the same time, and so everything was pretty heated at that point, yeah. There's one side of this, Dan, that wants abolishment completely and maybe start over again. Any chance of that happening? I mean, I hear Inez's point about there's got to be a way to reconcile these differences, but some folks, that's just not going to be good enough. All they want is to have it abolished, and they're going to have a hard line, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it is a tough one to find a middle ground on. I think there are some things that could be done. I mean, for me, it was kind of, I think some questions were raised about the whole police response too. I mean, and does the fact a group that gets a permit get to set the rules, and that dictates how police respond?
That's right.
And I thought there were some questions about that. This was on a public space in the plaza.
Yep.
The fact a number of people were arrested, rightfully or wrongfully, but for trespassing on a public space, I thought was problematic and something the city needs to deal with going forward.
That's right. Let me swing back to Inez on that. Glad you brought that up. I was going to get there next. We had 8 misdemeanors, but we had Jennifer Morley charged with 2 felony counts, one on battery on a police officer. It's a pretty serious charge.
Yes.
Nothing's moved since then, and I guess it's still sort of hanging out there. But this sort of makes your point, the idea about private property versus public property, police, all that kind of a thing. What's the middle ground there? Is it your sense that it's going to have to be on private property at the end of the day to really make this work?
I think so. That's what our paper has said editorially for a couple of years is, if you wanted to do this pageant this way, just take it somewhere else and make it part of your historical record.
But what
don't
gets lost though?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the plaza. You got to have some,
Well, but the whole Fiesta, I mean, there's so much more to Fiesta. What's ironic is the Entrada was an introduction, started as a Don Diego pageant by Anglo outsiders who thought the religious aspect of Fiesta was boring. So it's not really that historical when you look at 300 years of Fiesta. So I just think you take the parts that people still want to do that they think are important, and then you have the public Fiesta of feasting and all those things for the public.
That's a good point. Matt, do you have a point on that? You want to throw one on there?
Well, I think you're right, because then you sort of, it's an interesting thought. You take away the need for the police response. I mean, we saw the photos afterwards of, police with sniper rifles on top of the Palace of the Governors, on top of, one of the galleries around the plaza. They've got their Remington 308s, that look like they're just ready, for anything. And that's not what happened, even though people got outside of the quote-unquote free speech zones. And, it's just, that's not the sort of, getting back to your point, the image that you want to be projecting about your city.
That's right. Exactly right. Hop in that there. We will be back in a few minutes to talk about more top stories in the news of this past year.